I'm Ashley Thomas and welcome to my channel, and here is my review of one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and that is Glass, directed by M. Night Shyamalan, the sequel to Unbreakable and Split. Unbreakable being a film that I absolutely adore ever since seeing it for the first time back in 2000 on rented VHS from Blockbuster. Absolutely adore Unbreakable. I really enjoyed Split, and obviously I loved the twist at the end, which was that Split was based within the same universe as Unbreakable, and now we are getting Glass, the sequel to Unbreakable and Split. So the story of Glass, I'm not going to say too much because I really want people just to go into this film and, you know, experience it without knowing anything, without knowing any of the twists and the turns and the surprises. But from what you probably guessed from the trailers, it takes place mostly in a mental hospital. You've got Sarah Paulson's character. She plays a psychiatrist who's trying to sort of convince Mr. Glass and the Horde, played by McAvoy, and David Dunn, played by Bruce Willis, to try and sort of convince them that they're not actually superhuman, that they're not superheroes and supervillains. First of all, I want to give some praise to Wes Dylan Paulson for the music in this movie. He also scored Split, but I just loved what he did with the music in this movie. As a result, it amplified a lot of the scenes when it came to atmosphere and tension and horror, especially when it comes to James McAvoy's character, the Horde. His music really does help elevate the atmosphere and the mood in these scenes. I really dug the score, the soundtrack. I will probably buy it at some point. And maybe this is just me, but I fancied there was also moments of the music, of the score, elements that reminded me a lot of the score for Man of Steel. And I like that because I adore the music, the score from Man of Steel. And there were certain elements in this movie where it was sort of, you'd have this slow, gradual build-up to this sort of grand reveal or climatic moment, and it just was very, very reminiscent of certain elements of the Man of Steel soundtrack. Is that just me, or did any of you guys feel the same way? Let me know below. I felt like the first act was very fast paced compared to the rest of the movie. The movie does slow down going into the second act, and it sort of picks up again in the third act. But the first act I fancied was very fast paced. It doesn't waste any time in getting David Dunn's character and McAvoy's character, the Horde, Kevin, together. You know, they waste no time getting to that confrontation. And in a way, I sort of wanted to slow down just a little bit. It was like it was sort of diving straight back into this world with David Dunn, and I just felt like we just needed a bit more of David Dunn. We do get a lot of James McAvoy's character, Kevin Wendell Crumb, the Horde, and McAvoy's performance in this film is amazing. I loved him in Split, and I just thought he was incredible here in Glass. The way in which he just switches between all these different personalities. I believe it's 25 personalities you've got. You don't see all of those personalities. I think in this movie, I think you get 20 of them actually. But it's just the way he just switches between them. It's so fluid, and it's just, they are literally different characters and different, you know, personalities, and he's just incredible in this film. I really dug his performance. But we do get a lot of James McAvoy's character in this film, to a point where it feels more like a sequel to Split than Unbreakable. I didn't really mind so much, but like I said, I did really want more of David Dunn. And Bruce Willis was also really good in this movie. I really dug what he was doing with David Dunn, and how he sort of, you know, you see how this character has evolved over the years, and he says so much through just his expressions and the way he sort of handles his, the way he holds his character, the way he sort of just the way, it's sort of the subtle sort of movements, sort of the subtle expressions that Bruce Willis does within this movie, you know, as he's portraying this character, David Dunn. He just says so much. You know, there's a story, you can see a story behind the performance. I thought Bruce Willis was great. I also really liked Sarah Paulson as Dr. Ellie Staple, the psychiatrist, who is basically trying to convince these characters that they're not superhuman. I really dug her performance. At times I thought she was quite mesmerising, in fact, when it came to her performance, and she sort of has this aura of mystery about her that she sort of releases through her performance. And the same goes for Samuel L. Jackson. I thought Samuel L. Jackson was great. I also really liked the use of colours and lighting in this movie, which, like the soundtrack, helped amplify the atmosphere and the mood within the movie and during certain scenes and moments. Like, you know, emotion as well. When going back to the soundtrack really helps add emotion to a lot of moments within this movie, more so during the third act. But yeah, I really dug the use of the lighting and the colours. Like, M. Night Shyamalan sort of used different themes, different colours for the different characters. So Mr. Glass is purple, and you've got the Beast, the Horde, as these sort of darker ambers and oranges, which I really, really liked, and again just helped sort of add a lot more to these characters, and the scenes that they were in helped add a lot of atmosphere and mood to them. Now, I really liked this movie. I really, really liked Glass. I enjoyed it so much. I didn't really go in there with, to be honest with you, I didn't really know what to expect, other than what M. Night Shyamalan, how he was going to continue this story and how he was going to continue these characters. Like, I was really sort of expecting something very similar to Unbreakable and Split, and we sort of get that. But the way this movie sort of comes together, it is a little bit messy. And at times I was sitting there thinking, does M. Night Shyamalan even know how... It felt like he wasn't quite sure himself how he wanted to sort of... in what direction he wanted the story to go in, and what he wanted to do with these characters, and it just felt a little bit lost at times. And I don't know if that's the way the film just sort of was edited together and put together, and how the narrative flowed for me. So it did feel a little bit messy, and at times just felt like M. Night Shyamalan himself didn't really know where he wanted to go with the story. But it was an enjoyable ride. I was gripped right from the beginning and right through to the end, and even though the third act in its execution was a little bit messy and clunky and awkward, you could say, the payoff, the twist, and the reveal at the end, I loved it. I dug it. I left the film very emotional. The movie resonated with me. It stuck with me because I seen something in this film. The messages that I thought was trying to say in this film, the themes that I felt like M. Night Shyamalan was trying to express within this movie, within the story, really struck a chord with me, really resonated with me. And I'm not sure if everyone's quite gonna get that, and it might just be me, and it might not even be M. Night Shyamalan's intention to. And so for me, this film was all about identity, and to be seen and heard to the world. And that is what I sort of really... that's what came across to me. Now, that may not have been M. Night Shyamalan's intention, I don't know. But so I could connect to this film in a way. I'm a gay man, and like the X-Men films, very similar sort of theme. I'm sort of in a group of people which, over the world are suppressed by governments, that are hidden away. And you've got things like gay conversion therapy, which I felt like this film also was using as a sort of theme, as a sort of a message. I do feel like, for me, that this mental institute, which you've got these superheroes in, was a metaphor for gay conversion therapy, and that's how I looked at it. And it became more prominent towards the end of the movie, when you get the surprise and the twists. And I do feel like at the end of it, it became even more evident that this film was all about identity, and not be hidden and suppressed and just hidden away. And like I said, it really resonated with me. It struck a chord with me. I found it highly emotional. I actually had to stop myself crying in 2 moments during the third act. It was quite powerful. I fancy the third act in this film was very, very powerful, the way in which it played out, even though it was a little bit messy and awkward. I just sort of really dug what I thought M. Night Shyamalan was trying to say, what he was trying, the story, this message that he was trying to say to the world. So for me, the confrontation, the showdown, which you would expect in a superhero movie, takes on a completely different meaning in this movie at the end. And I do think a lot of people are not going to take to it, and I do think a lot of people will take to it. I think people are going to be very split on this film. I think they're either going to love it and connect to it and react to it in a way which I have, or there's people out there that I understand are going to hate it and just not be happy with it. And I could totally understand that. I can see that happening. But as it was with me, I really dug this movie. Yes, the way in which the story was put together and a way in which a lot of the scenes was sort of constructed and how they played out was a little bit awkward and messy, especially the third act. But overall, I was invested into this story and invested into the characters, and I was immersed into this world. And the payoff, the climax for me, the twist at the end and the reveals, I really dug. I really liked, and it stuck with me afterwards. I was constantly thinking about this film all night, and I do believe on a second viewing for me, like, I'm going to see this film again because I enjoyed it that much, and on a second viewing I feel like this film is going to be even more powerful. I felt like this film really sort of summed up society today, and that we could do with a few more heroes to stand up for us, for those people, those groups of people around the world that are sort of suppressed and just hidden away and are prosecuted just because of who they are. And I feel like that's what this film was all about for me, and I really like that. And it, like I said, it really just struck a chord with me, and as a result I felt like this film actually became necessary, that we needed it. But it's the way I looked at it, it's what I took away from it. And like I said, I'm not entirely sure if everyone else is going to take the same thing away from it, and even if that was M. Night Shyamalan's intentions. But that's how I felt with the movie, and I feel like it's quite an important movie as a result of what the film I felt was trying to say. I did like the way the fight scenes, the action scenes were shot in this film as well. Very intimate, very, a lot of close-up shots. And again, if you've seen films, if you've seen Unbreakable, then the way M. Night Shyamalan shoots his movies are very intimate. It's a lot of long takes, focusing on the characters and focusing in on the scenes and the moments, and I really like that. And even though I felt like this film he didn't really shoot this film exactly the same way as he shot Unbreakable, there are moments in this film that reminded me of Unbreakable in the way in which it was shot. But I did like the sort of the really close-ups when it came to the fight scenes. It sort of, for me, it became, as a result, was very immersive and very intimate, and it adds a lot of tension to the scenes as well. And I like that. In a way, he shoots these scenes as if you were experiencing it yourself in reality, and that it's actually happening in reality. If that makes any sense. I don't know. I'm trying to think of the best way to explain how he sort of shoots these scenes in Unbreakable. Like, you'll get this confrontation between these two superhumans, and the way in which it's shot it adds a lot of realism to the moment, as if you're experiencing it and this is how it would actually play out. So yeah, I liked it. Overall, I felt like M. Night Shyamalan tried to bring these characters together in the most organic way as possible. It doesn't always work, and for me, but I enjoyed the ride. I enjoyed what he brought to us, the conclusion to David Dunn's character, to Mr. Glass and the Beast. I was satisfied. I was satisfied, and I'm a massive fan of Unbreakable, and I loved Split. So yeah, I am one of those fans that really like this film. I recognize it has flaws. I recognize that it's not a perfect movie, and I recognize a lot of the negatives that other critics and other reviewers have brought up. But overall, for me, this was an enjoyable experience. It's a film that I will want to see again. I could have done with a lot more David Dunn. I felt like we needed a bit more David Dunn in this movie. but I still like the conclusion to this character. I like what M. Night Shyamalan did with the character. But it's like really, overall, I felt like this film just needed a little bit more meat to it. A little bit more sort of into the characters a little bit. Because I do feel like this film could have been longer. Now, I read somewhere that this film was actually like, the first cut was 3 hours and 20 minutes. I'd be interested to see what they actually cut. And if that was a lot of it was David Dunn. I do feel like it just needed a little bit more when it came to character. It's mainly David Dunn. I would have liked a little bit more, but overall I enjoyed this movie. Like I said, I didn't really go in there with any expectations. I didn't really know what to expect. I was just really looking forward to seeing what M. Night Shyamalan was going to bring and how he was going to sort of continue these characters that he started with Unbreakable and continue to split. I was really more sort of curious and interested in how he was going to do it. What I wanted really was just a satisfying conclusion, and I got that at the end. It was a bit of a bumpy ride. Like I said, it was a little bit messy and it wasn't quite as smooth as I would have liked it to have been, but overall I was satisfied. And they are my thoughts and opinions of Glass, and I will be giving Glass a B+. What did you guys think of Glass? Please let me know below and let's get a discussion going. And thanks so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. And remember, if you want to see future reviews from me and just general movie talk, then why not hit subscribe?